Hi everyone, my name is Renee Huang. I'm the founder of Wild Women Tribe, which is a group that brings transformational experiences to women outdoors. I'm here with Jacki Zehner and Trevor Cates, and we are here on the Ignite podcast in cooperation with Park City TV, where we are bringing women in the community together through empowering conversations and topics that make a difference. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Jacki, just to give you a little background, Jacki Zehner is a fellow Canadian like me, and you've been in Park City for about 9 years. You come from a finance background and were managing director at Goldman Sachs, as well as the first female partner. Was that correct, back in the day?
I was the first female trading. It's a long one. Youngest woman and first female trader to make partner at Goldman Sachs. Yes, a very long time ago.
Amazing. And you've since built such an empowering career and support system for women in entrepreneurship and different backgrounds, and are one of the co-founders of Women Moving Millions, which is, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I had a 14-year finance career. I left in 2002, a long time ago, and sort of sent me on this journey around women's leadership and inclusion. And we had set up a family foundation when the firm went public in the late 90s. And I'd been giving a lot to women and girls organizations. That really was my passion, women's leadership. And I found my way into a community that was created by two other women, two kind of famous women from Dallas, Texas, from the Hunt oil family, the Hunt sisters. And they created a campaign encouraging women to make $1 million gifts in support of other women. So I became a member of part of the campaign, and then took it over and became the founding president, and pretty much ran the organization for almost a decade. And we built it up to north of 300 people that collectively have given over $1 billion to women and girls causes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then I retired from that last fall, so I'm on to new things. But
then here locally, you've also done Utah Wonder Women.
Yes.
And you have like the hugest collection of Wonder Women outfits.
That's kind of
womankind.
Well, outfits is part of it, but paraphernalia. Actually, yes, I kind of have an obsession with Wonder Woman, one might say.
That's amazing.
My husband might say an unhealthy obsession at this point, but
it's never unhealthy.
Yes, it's all about women. It should be like all about women if I had that on a t-shirt.
Well, and that's what the Ignite podcast is all about. It's about
course.
women who are doing amazing things and also uplifting other women through what they're doing. And so Dr. Trevor Cates, who is a good buddy of mine, we've been mommies together, our daughters are friends. It's been so inspiring to watch your journey from naturopathic doctor. You're the first board certified female naturopath in California. That's correct.
I was the first woman licensed as a naturopathic doctor.
And then you moved here and you had a family, and then launched into the entrepreneurial sphere with Clean Skin from Within, the amazing book that you wrote, and your skincare line, The Spa Doctor. And so I think diving into the topic of balance is going to be really interesting to hear how you have kind of managed that through different life transitions as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So diving right in actually to that topic of balance, I wanted to start off first with, do you want to define what that word means? I know we were sitting down beforehand, Jacki, and you're like, well, I feel like there's further steps that we can take it from maybe what we originally think of when we think of work-life balance or what have you.
Well, I guess for me, because my youngest just turned 19 and is on a gap year before going to college, and my son's soon to graduate from college. I feel like I'm on the other side of really trying to manage it all. And I think one thing that has made such a difference, and it's quite unusual, is I've had a husband who's really chose to be the primary parent. So he left. He was also at Goldman Sachs and chose to be home before and leave work full time before I did. And so we've done this pacing thing. He was at home, and then I left, and he went back and got another degree, and then I was more at home. So we've done this thing. So I guess it is balance. But I don't know, there's something about that term I've always struggled with, especially in terms of females, because men don't often talk about that. It's just assumed they can do everything. And of course, in my case, my husband does almost do everything, so there you go. But it's just something that, I don't know, the term is, I've always struggled with that, and I've certainly been You know, I was reminded recently, I read something that I wrote a long time ago when I was sort of at the peak stress level of really trying to do it all, and it was a failed cookie night, you know, where they were due and I didn't make them, and then I tried to go to sleep and I couldn't, and then I couldn't get the cookies because the store was closed, and I had one of those mental breakdowns. So I do actually really remember what it was like, especially in the heat of when you have younger children, and you know, there's a lot of single parent head of households now too, which is a whole nother set of stress. But I feel like I had it so easy in that regard, especially for, you know, most of the time our children, you know, we're growing up, that, you know, it probably hasn't been as challenging for me to figure out as it is for a lot of people whose lives are more stressed for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. It seems like balanced has become this synonymous with perfect. And that it's really not an achievable thing, but it's not really about that. It's really about, you know, creating balance of how can we do the various things that we want to do and still feel healthy, still feel energized, and get most things done. There's no way we can do it all. And I think women in particular, we try and do it all. And because we like to caregive, well, that's kind of in our nature to take care of, whether it's children or our parents, or, you know, in my case, it's patients too. Whoever it is, we tend to take care of others. And so not only are we taking care of ourselves, we're taking care of others, we're trying to work, we're trying to do all of these things. And I feel like women are trying to do it in a perfect way. And it's not possible. That's not an unhealthy way to look at being balanced, I think.
Well, the way that I like to look at it, and we've had these discussions before with our girlfriends, where we have taken a circle and tried to divide that up into what we define as balance. And it was interesting to watch different people approach even that problem separately. I mean, I tried to draw a pie chart where I was dividing that circle up, and then other people took the circle and actually divided it horizontally into different spheres. And the way that I, in the last year or so, have tried to look at it is from a perspective of harmony instead of balance. And it's not like trying to fit everything in and making it all equal, but it's more along the lines of what do I need more of right now, what does my family need more of now, and not bringing the shame and judgment in that I think we as women, like you're saying, Trevor, do so easily and so quickly. We're so quick to judge ourselves and to judge those around us if we're fitting into this quote-unquote perfection model.
Yeah, and we were talking a little earlier about Brene Brown, who I'm obsessed with, and I was just watching her most recent Netflix special yesterday, and she kind of got into that a little bit in terms of what she said, you know, the courage it takes to step into joy and how we sabotage our own joy. And I think that's some of what you're talking about, like, because if the metric that we're holding ourselves to is that we have to be good at all things all the time, then you're in the moment with one thing. And she said that's sort of a way to really try to grab joy into your life, is this, of course, being present. That seems kind of obvious, but it's so hard. But that if we're saying, but we're not, but because I'm here, I'm not there, because I'm this, I'm not that, you know, you're sabotaging, you know, the joy that you do have. So I think that's where I get excited about sort of where this can take us, is reframing, you know, what we even mean, you know, by balance. And it's such a big word that can be interpreted in so many different ways. But I agree with you, Trevor. Like, I think there's a lot of expectations that we put on each other, and the society puts on us. And I think mothers maybe a little bit, especially working moms, maybe more so than others.
Yeah, and I think as single moms, you know, we're single moms, I think that also puts a little extra stress on us to feel like we have to do it all, and we don't have as much help. You know, I think we should talk about that at some point, as you know, getting help, because I think that is one way you can help you achieve balance, is to get assistance. But for me, I feel like when I think about balance, I feel like I'm in a balanced state if I feel healthy and happy. And that's how I know I'm in a balanced state. It's not perfect. And there's some things I have to give up and I have to let go of, like, you know, if the cookies burn or whatever, just let go of that and go, okay, well we're just not doing cookies. We're going to do something else. You know, it's just letting go of certain things and then finding this happy and healthy place. And I have, you know, some tips I can help with that. But I think that for me, that's really important.
I love the tips part. I'm like, bring it on. I'll take some of those.
Do you also have sort of a measuring stick, Jackie, of where you know you're out of balance or that you need to refocus on yourself?
Yeah, I do, and I love what you said, sort of in a happy and healthy place. You know, I've learned to, over time, just pay much more attention to what I'm feeling, and I do. So I think the older you get, you have the benefit of time in that regard. So I think I've really actually consciously tried to work on self-awareness as a thing. Checking myself, especially when I'm not showing up as my best self. And is it because I'm tired, because I didn't get any sleep? Is it diet? Like, not just letting it go to say, I don't feel good today. It's like really saying, why don't I feel good? And then if I'm not being kind, or I'm, whatever it happens to be, to really kind of check in on why that's the case. So I'm trying to build that in as a practice and invite others. I mean, another thing I love, Brene Brown, what she said about, in this talk that she did, which I've tried to introduce in my life, is, really caring about what some people think of you and not what everyone thinks about you. So having friends in your life that, have a responsibility to help you be your best self and will call you out when you're, not being, but not in a way that's attacking. Like, are you okay? This isn't who you normally are, nor who I think you want to be in the world.
Coming from a loving place.
Really,
not
yeah,
a critical
exactly.
place.
So I'm really trying to be really explicit about having those types of relationships, and I think that's really helped.
Yeah. Have you heard that there's some sort of comparison or phrase that you are the compilation of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Yes.
I mean, it really makes you check in with yourself and say, hey, am I happy with the people who I'm closely associating with? Am I being my best self? Are they keeping me in the checks and balances that are healthy and positive? And I think it's really amazing to, as a woman, be able to say, you know what, I have boundaries, and I am realizing now what is good for me and what is not so great for me, and being able to say yes and no to those things, because I know growing up I didn't really have a very good sense of boundaries, and I just kind of took it all in and thought, it's my job to manage everything that comes my way. And so one of my big lessons as a grown-up, and this didn't even come till I was in my 30s, is learning the boundaries and learning how to say no to say yes to the larger things that are more positive and more beneficial. Did you have some things to add, some tips about how you keep yourself in balance, or what kind of signifies to you that you're maybe off kilter a bit?
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about with boundaries is so important, and it's really that helps with time management too. If you're trying to do a lot of different things and you're not setting boundaries, you're not going to be able to fit everything in that you want to be able to do. So I do think that's important. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of patients and clients, followers that aren't healthy. And I realize how a lot of people are living in a place where they're tired all the time. They're not their optimal health. And if you're not optimally healthy, you're not going to be able to do all the things you can do if you're in a really optimally healthy state. So I think as women, a lot of times we're caregivers, right? We're taking care of other people, and we forget to take care of ourselves. So I just want to really stress that there's one thing that people take away from me being on this show today, is to take care of yourself, to get back to the foundations of a healthy lifestyle, because that's going to help you create that balance in your life, to be able to do all the things that you want to do. But I think so many times we're taking care of the kids and our parents and our friends and everybody else, but we've got to slow down and take care of ourselves.
That's amazing. And it's interesting, I want to take a step back, because one of the reasons I brought you two together is because you come from very different backgrounds, and I feel like in the wanders that I do through Wild Women Tribe, it's amazing to see women of different ages and stages come together and share wisdom, and to realize that no matter what our upbringing is, or what our sphere of influence, or what we have become experts in, we can learn from each other. And I think that's the beauty of bringing people together through these conversations on topics that are broad, like balance. We can all kind of chime in. The other thing I did want to touch upon was you're both so exceptional in the lives that you've been able to build and the influence that you have, but I was wondering if you can think back to a time where it was more difficult, along the topic of balance, but what maybe did you go through that helped get you there? Was there something that was a turning point, or moments, or a moment that kind of helped define that for you and helped you kind of reach that confidence?
Do you want to go, Trevor?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking a lot of times during times of transition, like when I'm thinking about, especially like going through a divorce, and the changes that it creates, and how emotionally, challenging that is, and then also the shift in the family and the dynamic and the time and the scheduling and all of that. There's a lot that shifts in that, and I think that times like that, what has helped me is the people around me, and realizing I can't do it by myself, and looking to the other people around me for support. And also I've done that in my business too. So I've done that personally. Who can I reach out to? Sometimes it's a matter of hiring people to help, like hiring a nanny, or hiring a babysitter to help, or somebody to help with cleaning, or just so because you can't do it all, right? And then also with my business, hiring people on my team that are exceptional, that have a lot of talent and that care and that contribute to the business. And so I think those kinds of things are really key, is getting assistance, getting help, support.
Well, like you said, being vulnerable is really hard for most of us, and it took me going through separation and divorce and that transition to realize, you know what, I can't just have this like pretend image of perfection. And I remember reaching out to you. I reached out by email to a bunch of girlfriends who I didn't really know very well. I'd only been in Park City for 2 years, and said, help. And Trevor came and like cleaned my fridge out. I mean, it was just, it was amazing, the people who kind of came to the surface who didn't really know me, but I think were really touched by that act, right? Of just saying, you know what, I'm gonna be super real and like raw right now, and I need your help. And I think people step in when you provide that sort of gateway to go in. Did you have anything to add, Jackie?
Well, I just love the piece about vulnerability, because I do think we live in, it's sort of the paradox of belonging in some ways, is that, that's what we most need, is to be accepted for who we are, and, the real and this, and yet we'll do whatever we can to try to be something else, to be what we think everyone else wants us to be. So I think that's the irony of it all in many ways. And I do think vulnerability invites vulnerability, and asking for help invites asking for help. And, I was trying to think of a time when I've chosen to be that, what you just said, Renee, and it not be welcomed and received and with gratitude and open arms, with a willingness, because I think it just opens the door for other people. So I think that's sort of key to all this is, if we're going to demystify the idea of like perfect lives and perfect people and perfect mothers, it's all about sort of being real with one another, that we're, what we are struggling with, and when we do need help. Because I think you probably pace different people. Like I might be in my like, I can take on the world mode, and you might be like, oh my gosh, like really down in the trenches of not being able to get out of bed in the morning type thing. And there are going to be times when that's the opposite. But I love what you said of just having a community of people that you say, I trust enough, to reach out to and be honest.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, as mothers, and this episode's going to air around Mother's Day. And I think it's such an opportunity for us to really model with our children what our new concept of being a strong woman and being a balanced person is. And I was curious to know your approaches with your children.
That's a great question. I was actually going to say just we add that, because I think when we talk about help, that if we have children, include them in helping. I think oftentimes we try and do too much for our children, and then they grow up and they don't know how to do things. So the sooner we have them helping with cooking and cleaning and doing things themselves, and also the more they get involved in those types of things, it creates healthier habits. So if they're involved, and of course I'm going to go back to healthy, right, because I'm a naturopathic doctor, right? So if they are involved in helping with the cooking and maybe gardening or things like that, or shopping, then they're more interested in the healthy eating and a healthier lifestyle, because they're involved in that process. And it can help you and create this balance as they get older, because if you have really little kids, it's maybe doesn't feel very helpful, but as they grow up, then they're there to help out. And I think about two of my children are now really into cooking. One is studying to become a chef, and the other one I think probably will be too. She wants to have her own bakery, gluten-free bakery. So it's funny because I've always included them in the kitchen and trying to get their help. But partly it was because I needed help. But it's empowered them too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now like my daughter's taking a gap year. Before going to college, so we spent a lot of time together, and we really hadn't been able to, especially the past few years, because she was, in sports and debate and academically rigorous programs. So like when I think about the past few years, especially with her, we was driving her places and her shoving in homework, and she was just full out for years. But now that we're spending time together, and she's actually writing a book, which is really fun, on growing up Gen Z. We've had a lot more of these discussions, and she's starting to read me some of her chapters, and it sort of almost sounds like, oh my gosh, like what did she pick up, and like good, bad, and otherwise. And I do think now that she's on, an older, just the ability to have those conversations, and you're inspiring me to like go home and saying like, I'm kind of afraid to ask the question, like, was I a good mom? Like, what could I have done better? Because we're not perfect parents, right? And I have a clear sense of things I did well and things I didn't do as well. And a lot of it is just being in the, the rhythm of, in the moment of what else is going on in your life. But, I do think, I think we overserved our children, and this was sort of a dynamic maybe we had in our family as, a stay-at-home dad and a mom who, when she was home, like really need to prove her pudding kind of thing. But I do think you're right. I mean, I think it's sort of, that's a paradox too. You think you're serving your children by serving your children, and really maybe you're doing the opposite, and they're not becoming as independent. That being said, I had a son who went to college and managed, to survive. So I guess that's a good sign. I'm not saying he had clean underwear most days, but who knows? Maybe he did.
Well, I think that goes back to the conversation of just being real, And
Yeah.
For me as a mom, my kids are 10 and 12 now, and that's really a challenging stage for me to think of, like being real to them, being authentic to them, because I don't want to pretend and be like pretend mom, that just shoves things under the carpet and pretends that, I don't have my faults as well. I want them to realize that that's part of community and relationships and just getting to know people, the fact that, we're imperfect and we're all kind of growing in our relationships with each other. So I like that you're able to kind of bridge those years and those different life stages with your kids. My next question really relates to advice to other women who may be business owners or maybe moms as well. Do you have any sort of tips for them creating more time for themselves or more balance in their own lives?
Well, I would say from my perspective, going back to how can you create a healthy foundation so that you can have the energy and you feel good enough, you're pain-free, have energy, all of that you need to be able to create balance in your life. And also it's a sign that you're in a more balanced state if you're doing the things that you need to do. So in my book, Clean Skin from Within, I talk about 4 different aspects of kind of a clean life and achieving a healthy lifestyle. That's clean plate, clean slate, clean body, and clean mind. And so and I think of skin as this outer reflection of inner health. I'll call it our magic mirror. And so that's why I focus my book on skin. But really, if you do these things, it's not going to just help your skin. It's going to help you have more energy and avoid different chronic diseases and things. So the clean plate are the foods to eat and the foods to avoid. So choosing really clean, energizing, nourishing foods and avoiding the high sugary processed foods, things like that are just going to weigh you down. And then the clean slate are using clean skincare products that help keep your skin healthy and glowing. And then clean body is making sure that your body is not being exposed to excess toxins in the environment that actually can have hormone disrupting effects that can create imbalances in the body and really drag you down and impact your energy level. And then clean mind is about stress management practices and mindfulness practices, because we need that in order to really, and that's a big part of achieving balance, is that clean mind. And so I think that if we incorporate all 4 aspects of that on a day-to-day basis, and it doesn't have to be complicated, even if you take like 5 minutes or a minute to do some deep breathing, and you take some time to chop up some extra vegetables and take those with you rather than grabbing a bag of chips. Simple things can make a huge difference.
I agree with you. Yeah, I've gotten into this practice of taking the first 10 minutes when I wake up. I'm even just lying in bed, and I sit there and I kind of set my intentions for the day. And in the past, I think with the racing mind or busyness trying to juggle schedules and things, I would wake up and automatically go right into that. But I found that over the last 10 months or close to a year that I've been doing it, it's really kind of peaceful to reclaim that and say, you know what, the day belongs to me, and I don't have to be dictated. I don't have to let schedules or responsibilities or expectations dictate it. And so it's been for me really calming just to take those moments and find that center point for myself. What about you, Jacki?
Yeah, I think the science of mindfulness is just, it's old, it's timeless, but it's so new. And the fact that it's, should be introduced into our schools, and if we do that, which I don't, the kids are going to model it and pick it up, because I do see, and it only builds, as your kids get older, depending on, I think for all kids, but the stress, and really we give them so few tools. And if we're doing that in our own life and rushing and doing in this, and how are we surprised that they're rushing and doing in this? And I was with a doctor recently because our daughter has had some stomach issues, and we're on a path to figure out what's going on with her. But the doctor said, I can't tell you how many teenage girls in particular I see in this office. And you could say it's anxiety. With Allie, it's actually, there's stuff going on as well. I mean, it could be anxiety as well, but I mean, the mental health and anxiety and eating disorder and depression amongst teenagers in this country is something that's really a crisis. So I do think that's something to really be taking seriously, and I don't think I took it as seriously as a parent in trying to, because you get on that wheel where they want to achieve and they want to get into great college, and you just go with the flow rather than taking a step back and say that we're in a bit of a broken system. But I think the stress of kids and our own stress is something, if we don't model it, then how do we expect them to bring those behaviors and normalize those behaviors as well?
Yeah, I think you're bringing up great points, and I'm glad that we're able to sit down and talk about that and hopefully inspire some other people to have real conversations with their friends and their families moving forward. I think we're going to wrap up right now, and I just wanted to thank you both for being on the inaugural podcast of the Ignite podcast.
It's the inaugural one. High five on that. A little slapping on the hands happening in this room.
I wanted to give a thank you to PCTV for being our host on this endeavor, and invite people who wanted to know more about Wild Women Tribe to check out wildwomentribe.net. We have a retreat in Moab, a 2-day glamping retreat where we're going to gather together, do daily yoga, workshops, hiking, and great food and drink. So you can check that out there. Did you ladies want to include any websites or organizations that people should check out?
Sure. My website is thespadoctor.com. So it's thespadr.com. So doctor is abbreviated.
Great, and I have my own website, Jacki Zehner, JACKIZEHNER. I blog, I share resources, I write a lot for LinkedIn. Find me on Instagram, on Twitter. Got it all going on. I'm sure we all do.
These ladies have a lot going on. We hope that this helped ignite the flame within, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.